Hello, my name is Muwata Green, and I'm your host for the Plebeian View podcast. The Plebeian View podcast aims to be a leading voice in ideas in creating a fair and equitable world where all people are entitled to life, liberty, and happiness. I like the far Baragani, and happy 2022. This is Muwata Green, your host of the Plebeian View podcast. This is our first podcast for 2022, and we're going to talk about some key things that's going on in the world around us and some of the culture changes that we're proposing that hopefully make things better. We're going to talk about this article I did for the Tri-City News down here entitled Socialism and Kwanzaa and Its Compatibility. Also, we're going to give tribute to Bishop Desmond Tutu, who passed away at the end of 2021. So stick around for the Plebeian View 2022 first podcast. Let's start with this article that I wrote down here for the Tri-City News for the Kwanzaa culture holiday, entitled Socialism and Kwanzaa, Its Compatibility. As you know, Kwanzaa has 7 principles: Umoja, unity; Kujijakalia, self-determination; Ujima, collective work and responsibility; Ujamaa, cooperative economics; Nia, purpose; Kuumba, creativity; and Imani, faith. I feel that culture is a key issue in changing the country. Before you're going to have a real physical revolution, you have to have a cultural revolution. I mean, you have to re-educate the minds of the people and the things that we do and why we do what we do and the basis of why it's done. And Kwanzaa is a perfect time of year to look at doing that because it's a culture holiday that embraces traditional African values of communalism and added it into a modern 21st century African and African in diaspora context. So let's look at each of the 7 principles and how they fit into a more of a communal and a progressive socialist view. Unity is the foundation principle. One cannot have a moral life without living in harmony with other members of the community. Unity. Character development is not simply a good person abstract from the community. Unity is active solidarity among the people. Self-determination. Each person must ask him or herself 3 basic questions. Who am I? Am I really who I am? And am I all I ought to be? These questions should be answered from historical and cultural point of view, not a personal identity. Collective work and responsibility. It's about active cooperation, communitarianism, a social order. All things of value are to be shared as a common good. In other words, it's a highest form of cooperation, collective work and responsibility. Cooperative economics. It's a commitment to practice shared social wealth and the work necessary to achieve it. It comes out of a communal concept that social wealth belongs to the masses of people who created it, and no one should have an unequal amount of wealth that gives the capacity to impose, exploit, or oppress others in their relationships. Let me say that again. No one should have an unequal amount of wealth that gives capacity to impose, exploit it, or oppressive relationships on others. Purpose. To understand we are the fathers and mothers of the human civilization, have a key role in human history, which gives us an overriding cultural purpose and direction, and adds to the good and beauty of the world. Creativity is commitment to being creative with the context of national community, just leaving our community more beneficial and beautiful for each generation when they inherited it. And finally, faith, a profound enduring belief in our commitment to all that is of value, family, community, people, and the culture. Faith in each other and the good, the right, the beauty that inspires and sustains us coming together. These are explaining the 7 principles of Kwanzaa to the level of a communal culture and communal society, which is the foundation of a socialist society. And now for the second part of this 2022 New Year's edition of the Plebeian View. And it's a tribute to Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa, who, in my point of view, was a true activist and a true religious leader. Because what he talked about wasn't necessarily the pie in the sky, but it was about making the world better for all of us and being fair and equitable for everybody. Some of the 10 points that he talked about and he practiced in his life. He said, when the missionaries came to Africa, they gave us the Bible and we had the land. They say, let us pray. We closed our eyes when we opened them up. We had the Bible and they had taken the land. Next point he mentioned, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. If an elephant has his foot on the tail of a mouse, and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality. Next statement he said, forgiving is not forgetting. It's actually remembering and not using your right to hit back. It's a second chance for a new beginning. And remembering, part is particularly important, especially if you don't want to repeat what happened. Next, forgiving and being reconciled to our enemies or our loved ones are not about pretending that things are other than what they are. It's about patting one another on the back and turning a blind eye. It's not about that, to what went wrong. These reconciliations exposes the awfulness, the abuse, the hurt. It could even be sometimes make things worse. It is a risky undertaking, but in the end it is worthwhile, because in the end, only an honest confrontation with reality can bring healing. Superficial reconciliation can bring only superficial healing. A person is a person through other people. None of us comes into the world fully formed. We would not know how to think, walk, or speak, or behave as human beings unless we learn it from other human beings. We need other human beings. We were made to enjoy music, to enjoy beautiful sunsets, and to be thrilled with the rose and to be decked with the dew. Human beings are actually created for a transient, for the sublime, for the beautiful, for the truthful. And all of us are given the task of trying to make the world a little more hospitable to these beautiful things. Religion is like a knife. You can either use it to cut bread or stick it in someone's back. I would not worship a God who is homophobic. I would refuse to go to a homophobic heaven. No, I would say sorry. I would rather go to that other place. We must be ready to learn from one another, not claiming that we alone possess the truth and that somehow we have cornered on God. And finally, I am not interested in picking up crumbs of compassion thrown from the table of someone who considers himself my master. I want the full menu of rights. These are 10 points that Desmond Tutu lived by in his actions and his practices. We need to look at that, learn from that, and continue to move forward with that. These words I gave y'all today is words to think about, and hopefully help us, inspire us to continue to fight for real equality and justice throughout the world. So as we say in the native tongue, Tuta Anana, until we meet again. This is Muata Green from the Plebeian View. Enjoy the beginning of 2022. Tuta Anana.
Like the forest circling beneath the dark city that stagger on the coastline, and a nation that just can't stand much more. Like the forest buried beneath the highway.